Hello everybody, I hope you're all sitting comfortably. I want today to talk to you a little bit about the history of the piano. It's a very interesting topic. I'm hopefully going to make it educational and a bit of fun as well. I'm being helped by Kai, who's my video technician, and Subano, who's also going to be in helping as well. So this is a concert piano. Normally this would be played with an orchestra, and it's a very, very interesting. I'll talk to you more about that later, because I'll be talking to you about the length of the keyboard and all sorts of things. But it's a modern concert grand. Now you may wonder, when was the piano invented? Well, first of all, before the piano came the harpsichord, and this is a harpsichord, and you may say, actually that looks like a piano. You can see it's got what we call two manuals or two keyboards, and it makes a metallic sound. It's a bit sort of, well, it's metallic, and because the way the sound is made is that the strings are plucked like a guitar, so the sound is completely different. On the piano of Cristofori, which, now Cristofori was a, well, perhaps you can tell me, Cristofori was a spaghetti eater. He liked his spaghetti. So do I. Yum. Now, children, if you eat spaghetti and Cristofori...
Excuse me. You got post.
Thank you. Thanks for interrupting me.
That's okay.
Yes, Cristofori, as you probably gather, was Italian. So let's see what this urgent letter is that I was rudely interrupted with. Oh, I say. Now, when Cristofori invented the piano, its name at the time, 300 years ago, was forte piano. Forte meaning loud, piano meaning soft. And Cristofori's piano had a much smaller keyboard than this. It would be about from there to there. Okay. The frame would be wooden. Wouldn't be made out of iron like this one, okay, and it was just obviously very much more of a fragile instrument, and the sound was different too. Now, as I said to you, the harpsichord, the strings were plucked. On a piano, the strings are actually hit by a hammer. If you can imagine, this is a string, this is the hammer underneath, and it comes up and it hits the string. And this was the main difference, okay? And if you look on this piano here, I can just show you here, you can see the hammer's actually hitting the strings. Now, when the piano was first invented, the harpsichord was very, very popular. If you were royalty, if you were aristocracy, in other words, very rich, one of the things you'd have to have a harpsichord. Now, when the piano became invented, people started to get attracted to the piano because the sound was a bit nicer. And another thing that you could do that you couldn't do on a harpsichord was make the sound gradually get louder or gradually get softer. So I'm now going to play you a little piece of music, which you'll all know, I hope you will, called Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And in it, you'll notice the dynamics change. I start piano and I go to forte. So there we are, so that's the sound of the piano. Oh, that's again.
Urgent letter.
Okay.
Urgent letter.
Nearly frightened me then.
It said urgent.
Okay. So, gradually through the 1700s, the piano became more popular, and as I say, the harpsichord became less favourable. And in fact, the piano's name changed. It wasn't forte piano anymore. It became called the pianoforte. Okay. So this was actually the name as we're familiar today. It's called the pianoforte as its full name, but we usually just call it the piano. Okay, so there we are. So what I'm going to do now is, yes, just what I first need to do. And now we're 1800, so we've moved forward 100 years, and we're going to listen to some music by Beethoven. The composers of the day took advantage, obviously, of the piano being developed. Mozart and Haydn wrote a lot of music for it in the 1700s, and then along came Beethoven. Now Beethoven played a very famous piece of music called Fur-Elise. He composed it, and I'm just going to give you a little extract of Fur-Elise now. So that was the early 1800s with Beethoven.
Excuse me! Very urgent letter!
Oh, Subarno. Oh. But you're glad you know this, Subarno. Actually, she's a nice young lady, but she does interrupt me at the wrong moments. Oh, dearie me. Oh, I say. Now, composers who were really, really good in the 1800s at playing the piano and composing was this composer called Liszt, Franz Liszt. He was a Hungarian, and he had the most enormous hands, almost twice the size of mine, and he could span really big bits on the piano. And he was a fabulous, fabulous player, and he would attract people from all over Hungary and all around the world actually, and people would queue for hours, even days, to hear him play, and they'd scream wanting to hear him when they actually got in the auditorium. And he played to the audience. He loved it. He really liked the publicity. And he'd come with a cloak. He'd take his cloak off and hat, hand them to his assistant, and he'd sit down and play. And that was all very good. And he was just very, very popular. Now, he did come to England to play, I think on a number of occasions, and one of the things Liszt did was he gave a concert in London at Covent Garden, and that you would refer to as a solo performance, but he used another word which we use today quite a lot. He used the word recital. Okay, so nowadays if I said to you I was going to give a piano recital, you know that it would be me giving a solo concert or somebody else. You can have flute recitals, violin recitals, and this was brought to the country, and it started with Franz Liszt playing at Covent Garden. So there's a bit of history for you. One thing I should have mentioned was that these early grand pianos had wooden frames, but in a concert, for example in the 1800s, you would often find 2 or 3 grand pianos on the stage. Now you may be saying, well, why is that? Well, the pianos then were still not that robust, and the strings easily snapped. So if you had a very heavy-handed pianist who was playing really, really strongly, he or she would break a lot of strings, and off would go one grand piano and on would come another. And you can imagine today if we did that, the concert wouldn't be able to afford the concert, because these are obviously they're expensive instruments. So there we are. So that's actually Liszt being a showman. So now the piano is in full swing through the 1800s, through into the 1900s, and pretty well developed. Just before, if you like, I play my last bit of music, I'll just show you this piano here. This is called a Bosendorf Imperial Concert Grand. It's 9 feet 6 inches long. It is without doubt, without saying too much, I suppose one of the finest pianos in the UK. And if you notice the keyboard, everybody. Can you all take notice of the keyboard? It goes along and, oh my goodness me, there are some notes that are black. Oh, I wonder why. Well, a normal piano goes to there and finishes there. On this piano, which is a bigger grand piano than normal, we have these low notes. So they make the piano sound very rich. And I like that in the piano, making it sound rich. So there we are. I hope you've enjoyed what we've been doing today. I'm going to just finish by playing a piece of music which is called Ballad pour Adeline, and then I'll just finish off with a couple of sentences. So I hope you enjoyed this piece, Ballad for Adeline. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little journey about how the piano is invented, going first of all 1700 when the harpsichord was popular, piano being invented then by the Italian Cristofori, going through the next 100 years when the piano overtook the harpsichord, how the piano developed, became the instrument it is today. Thank you all very much for listening. I hope it's been an inspiration, and I hope some of you will decide to take up the piano. I also want to say, besides thanking your good selves, I'd like to say thank you to Surbano, and I'd like to say thank you to Kai for being my video technician. Have a lovely day. Thank you for listening.